Welcome back to Female Voices Life and Loss. I'm Teresa Reiniger, and Female Voices is where we create space for honest, true conversations about grief, resilience, healing, and the many ways women rebuild their lives after loss. One thing we often talk about on the podcast is that loss doesn't only affect our hearts, it can impact every part of our lives. Our relationship shifts, our identities shift, and often our financial world can suddenly look very different than we expected. And so today's guest, Terri, understands that intersection deeply. She is a financial advisor and a certified divorce financial analyst who is passionate about helping people navigate some of the life's biggest financial transitions, including divorce, retirement, and the loss of loved ones. Her passion for this work didn't come probably from the textbook like many women we speak with on this show. Her perspective has been shaped by her own experience with loss, including divorce, losing her parents at a young age, and grieving the life that she once thought she would have. I also wanted to share a bit of transparency with our listeners. I have had the privilege of working with her personally as a client alongside my colleague Dina. So today's conversation may include some of that reflection on that experience, as well as how that inner work has influenced the way she is now supporting others. So today's episode, we're going to talk about grief, identity, rebuilding life changes, and how financial clarity can become a powerful part of healing and reclaiming your future. So please welcome Terri Schneider to Female Voices Life and Loss. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. Love having conversations with you. So one of the very first questions that I want to ask you is, can you share a little bit about your story and some of the life experiences that you feel have shaped maybe the work that you do today?
Absolutely. How far back would you like me to go?
Oh, that's totally up to you.
So, as Teresa, as you alluded to, a lot of my work today, I do feel like some of the things that I have gone through in my life, that this has evolved to the purpose where I'm at now. Just being there and helping clients as they are actually walking through that, knowing that I have been through that myself. So, as you alluded to, I was pretty young when I lost my parents. I was really young when I lost my dad. I was 2, so I didn't have to really deal with any of that. But when I lost my mom, I was 30, and it was me and my sister, and we were the primary caretakers of my mom. So we had to deal with all of that. Very passionate when you go through something and you see what the family members actually have to go through. It kind of puts a little special place in your heart that makes you want to help them, especially when you have actually been through that. And then the divorce, I went through a divorce it started in 2019, finalized in 2020 through the COVID years. Um,
Mm.
so talk about really having to navigate things by yourself. I really had to navigate things by myself, and I didn't really have a whole lot of people, not only like family, friends wise, that have been through a situation like that, but you couldn't physically go anywhere and sit across the table and ask those questions and, really have that
Yeah.
understanding of going through that process. So,
Yeah.
yes,
Wow.
going through my divorce process, I learned a lot of things about divorce, about making decisions when you're under so much stress and you're trying to navigate things by yourself, or even if you have some people that you're talking to, friends, family, and just trying to get things done as fast as you possibly can to just be done with it. Looking back, there are definitely some things going through my divorce financially, speaking multiple ways, but with the financial aspect of things also, things that I made decisions on that I probably should have taken a little bit more time
Sure.
to make those decisions. So,
So you mentioned losing your parents, both really at a very young age, but how did that experience kind of shape the way you view security, maybe independence, and life just moving forward? Like how did that shape who you are today? maybe, and the work you do.
Yeah, it forced me really at a very young age to be very independent. Growing up, I came from a single parent household who she worked as best as she could, but also had a lot of health issues for as young as I can remember. So
Mhm.
growing up, really, I had to be independent. That kind of followed through even throughout my marriage. There was a lot of things that happened in my marriage, but I still had to pretty much just depend on myself. Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Some things that I'm still working through.
It can be both. It can be both. No doubt about it. You're right by that. You're right. Yeah.
Yes.
Depends on the situation, if it's really kind of serves you well or not. And we've have dug into that a little bit, where it has served you well and where it maybe has not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a handful of people throughout my life that know, I think, to be honest with you, you and Dina are probably the only one that knows like 99% of my life story. It's not something that I just openly share with a lot of
Sure.
people, but some of the people who know the majority of things, they'll ask me, I don't know how you did it. I don't know how
Mm.
you do it. And I'm like, I had no other choice but to.
That is very typical for women. We just push through, push down things, and push through, um, to just keep going. It's just really how the majority of us are designed, how we're made, to be supportive and just push through all of that. And it doesn't always serve us well, because
Correct.
then things kind of get stuck. So, with saying that, can you share maybe what you expected? I want to kind of dive into the grief of the life that you thought you would have. And maybe that is both the loss of parents, and I think sometimes that surfaces more so when you have friends, when you're young and you know what their life is like. And then you're like, oh, now you're grieving that your life is not like that. So maybe that. But then also what you expected when you got married and then that ended up, um, and a divorce. Speak to us about just grief and maybe one of those or both of those, what you thought, what you were grieving that you thought would be.
Yeah, absolutely. So the loss of parents, like I lost my mom 14 years ago. I was 30, my dad when I was young. So no grandparents either. So my family is very, very,
Oh, yeah.
I do have two beautiful
Which
children. I
I
love
which
them.
I don't understand at all. Small family.
Growing up, so my mom was one of seven children. So growing up, like I was always
Okay.
surrounded by family.
Mm.
She had many siblings. My grandparents were alive in high school. Then my grandfather passed away. Right after high school, my grandma passed away. A handful of years later, then my mom passed away. So it just immediately went, shoo, multiple aunts and an uncle in there that had passed away. So I feel like really that it was pretty immediate, maybe like a 10-year time frame where it went from a big family to pretty much nothing. uh,
Yeah.
so growing up, you envision, your parents being around for a while, especially my mom. My mom was really my best friend. Like we called every single day, talked to each
Mm.
other. We weren't at each other's houses, for a long period of time. We
Mhm.
actually lived our houses, our backyards connected. So,
Oh.
we were just back and forth to each other's house all the time. When she got really sick, I was her caretaker for a long time. So, that relationship was there, but you just don't expect. I think for me, like I was navigating also being a mom, to two young children, and I didn't have my mom really to
Mm.
be there and help me
Mhm.
for all that.
Yeah.
Mom, what do I do? Mom, what do I do?
Yeah.
So again, just kind of figuring it out and being independent and just doing the best I could on that.
Mm.
As far as divorce, so I met my ex-husband when I was 15. So he was my high school sweetheart. We were
Mhm.
together for a handful of years before we got married. I was 21 when we got married. We were together for 23 years. I took my vows very seriously. I'm a Christian, so when I took those vows, I was like, yes, okay, till death do us part. There's some other things, in there. You know, That's what you envision. You envision, okay, you have the family, you have the husband, you have the children, you have your beautiful,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
have all these things you have as an idea of what your life is going to be like. On
Yeah.
paper, that's what it was.
Mhm.
But then in reality, that's not really what it was. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So what led you to the work that you're doing now?
The
Is there
divorce,
something
yeah.
pivotal that happened? Yeah.
Yes, yes. So the CDFA portion of it really was going through my own divorce.
Sure,
Um,
that makes sense.
yes,
Mhm.
as a financial advisor, there were pieces of it that even as a financial advisor, I didn't know. I didn't know that part. My attorneys, they're there for one thing, but they don't know the ins and outs of all the other things. At the end of the day, they're there to make an agreement between both parties.
Sure.
Doesn't matter really what that looks like. And
Mhm.
sometimes they just make decisions based on what everybody else thinks or what we think
Mhm.
might be best without fully understanding how it really is going to impact you.
Yeah.
Yes. So when I learned about that designation, really, I wanted to be there to be that person that people can come to so that they understand like really what it is that they're agreeing to and what that full picture
Mhm.
looks like.
I love that. And just for the simple fact that many times, not always, that financial piece is something women don't understand. So I love that you're there to support them. So for that reason. So in your own healing journey, then we don't want to go too deep into all of your work because of compliance and all of those things.
Mhm.
So your own healing journey. So you and I actually met, I would say, at a networking, you on your healing journey. And I think probably just shortly after that, I lost my mom as well. And now we're working together, like we had talked about. So, what has happened in your life when you first realized, or what was the aha that I think I need to work with you? I've got some stuff that I don't think I've worked through. When did you decide you needed some more support during
Yes.
all of that?
Um, well, I like to say that I've been on like a healing journey for many years, but I would
Hmm.
say like really the like aha moment was when we did the workshop together and you were talking about
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
the continuous tension in your body and how it holds so much of that,
Mm-hmm.
the brain fog. And I know here's one of the bad examples of being independent is I try to figure everything out on my own. And even though I was doing a lot of the work and I was talking with counselors and all of the normal things, I knew that there just wasn't something that I was fully releasing.
Mm.
And I had many years of things of times I was just shoving things down. So I knew I hadn't fully done all of the work.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty typical of people is because we're kind of told like grieving all of these things, it's part of life. And so when we say it's part of life, it's kind of that expectation in air quotes that we should be able to do this because it's part of life. And in reality, almost everyone will push that in and hold it in because we're supposed to know how to do this because it's part of our life. And reality is no, we're not. We're not supposed to keep it in. We're supposed to be able to process and release that. Even going to sort of that Christian background. I mean, I know, and if anyone listening has read the Bible, it says Jesus, that's a release of emotion. So and we hear about that many times about people weeping and people grieving in the Bible. So we need to make sure as a society we are allowing people to grieve. And as
Ab-
a society as a whole, we don't. And so they hold it in even more for sure. Any
Absolutely.
thoughts on all of that? Yeah.
No, I agree 100% with you. Also probably your generation down to my generation, like there was a
Hmm.
lot of like you just weren't allowed to show your emotion. Like it really stems back to um childhood. I'm sure most people have heard. what are you crying about? I'll give you something to cry about. And then you're like, "Ugh, okay."
Oh, yeah,
I mean, even into adulthood, I could give numerous examples, but even into adulthood, like, I don't know why you're crying. I don't understand. Or only babies cry, or just a lot of different things. So
yeah,
you're conditioned to just not show those emotions
yeah.
to anyone.
Yeah, yeah, go to your room or I'll give you something to cry about, brush it off, get up,
Mhm.
all of that terminology that has been passed down for generations to
Right.
generations, which now is not beneficial for us. And we're
Mhm.
realizing that it's surfacing big time as as big problems. For
Mhm.
sure. And so I'm glad that there was the opportunity for us to work together at the workshop and for you to discover like, oh, this is not how I'm supposed to be doing this,
Right.
or this is how people are struggling. I'm not the only one that's feeling like that. So you have decided, we work together to do some deeper healing work. So what has that experience been like for you? What's surprising you the most about that process?
Oh,
Because you just said that you were doing therapy, you said all that. So yeah, how did all of that shift? And I mean, you said when, but speak to that a little more because I'm very curious about that.
goodness. Okay. So, as far as like finally deciding to work with you, like I had been aware of some of the things that I knew that was still bothering me that
Hmm.
would, I hate the word trigger, but would trigger certain things that I knew I still
Okay.
do some works.
Okay.
But the most surprising thing, so I've been surprised a lot working with you ladies. First was showing my emotions in front of other people and not being able to control it
Mm.
because I immediately, as soon as I feel it, I stop it. I have a really hard time with that. It doesn't really matter who's around. So that's one of the surprising things. And really, I mean, I could talk about all kinds of different things, but I originally worked with you ladies for thinking it was one thing,
Mm.
realizing now that it really has been a lifetime full of things that I just have never talked about. I've never
Mhm.
spoke the words of certain things to anybody verbally out loud to anybody. And I can't remember if you were on that call, if it was just Dina. Um, but it was the very first time I had verbally spoke things, certain things. Yeah, and just knowing, like, we're not really supposed to keep everything in and be quiet.
Yeah.
And one of the most surprising things is realizing, like, when you're not keeping quiet and you are actually releasing some of those things verbally or some of the other techniques that you have taught me, like, how much your body actually has been holding and just feeling it
Mm.
release is like, yes,
It's
yeah.
beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful. The work that I feel like I had the privilege of walking people through. It's just such beauty to hear the results. And I wanted to kind of go back a little bit, and for the listeners, just when you said that the emotions came. And so, what I want to say to that is, I am very much, very intentional about making sure that people feel they're in a safe space. And when
Absolutely.
people do feel like they're in a safe space, those emotions will release. And when those emotions release, the body, the nervous system, everything shifts and feels so much better when we can get all of that stuff out of her body. So it's super important to make sure that whoever you're working with, that you feel safe, that you feel comfortable with them. And it is really important. Now, whether it's counselor, therapist, specialists like myself, or even a friend and family member, because sometimes we feel like we're safe with a friend or family member, and then it's like, oh no. Because then we get the things like, aren't you over that yet? Or all
Mhm.
the things that we don't like to hear. And so now we're holding it back in again because we've had this experience with someone we thought was safe and they weren't safe. And so have you experienced that before?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay, so I wasn't sure about that, but okay, good to
Yes.
know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is something that we really work really hard to make sure that people do feel very, very safe so that those emotions can be released and they can share those things. So now that you're in the process of all of this healing, how's that impacted your work? How is your inner work now influenced the way now you're supporting clients maybe? Any awareness there yet?
I don't know. Not really.
Okay.
I know we're still kind of walking through these processes.
Yeah, we
You know,
are.
I've had a handful of things that have just whoop right back into some spaces. But I don't know. We might have to circle back on that question.
Yeah, I would imagine there's some things you're just not aware of what they are.
Yeah.
Because I would say probably you might even be just a little bit more compassionate and in creating, and you probably already did this wonderfully, just like we just talked about that safe space and really allowing people to talk and really being a listening ear for them to release and share fully so that they're not holding back. Now, I imagine a lot of that was already happening with you
Yes.
because I have known you for a while. So it will be interesting to see if there is an awareness there that kind of comes to surface from the work. And yeah, still more to come. We know that when I work with someone, and Dina and I, and really anybody, we're like an onion and we peel layers off, and then there's always more to
Mhm.
come. And so we're probably I'm going to say maybe the first few layers, but there's been miraculous things that you've experienced. And I think one of those is how your body feels. Talk to that a little bit.
Oh, yes. Yes. How my body feels. Um, Teresa knows, but I'll just share for everybody else listening. But I had so much just tension and stress in my shoulders and the back of my neck and occasionally my knee and my hip. And it didn't matter what I would do, like nothing would help it. I go to chiropractors, I'd get massage therapy once a month, all of the things. But just the very first time it's just like instant just weight of the world off of my shoulder.
Did we do breath work that, that day? Okay.
Yes. Yes, that was the breath work.
Yeah. So we do, I don't know if I've ever shared this on the podcast,
Okay.
what that is, but we do really a somatic, totally immersive breath work technique with 9 different kind of modalities. And then we add 2 additional ones to it with the somatic piece of it and then also the aroma. So we're engaging all senses to really support that full release. There's a lot of music, there's affirmations, there's just all sorts of things encompassing in this breath work that we do, which really supports that full release that you're speaking of, the emotional release, and then the physical shifts that change. So that was super powerful
So powerful.
for
Very
you.
powerful. I walked out of there feeling like I was like I had a brand new body. Like all the things I've tried for years, nothing has ever released that much.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
We are doing that more and more now. So if you're in the St. Louis area and that's something that I want to figure that out, I want to do that, definitely reach out to me and we can schedule that. If you're not in the area, it can be done virtually as well. You just don't get all of those additional things that are a piece of it because we can't do the somatic where we're laying hands like on you to help with that release or that aroma piece of it. But the rest of it can be done virtually without a problem. Yeah. So if there is someone maybe listening, is there anything that you want to share with them about really navigating divorce, widowhood, major life changes? I know we don't want to get too deep into the financial stuff, but just any words that you would share with them since that is your expertise.
I could ramble on forever about that. And it's when you're sitting in it, you almost feel like you're really in like this fog you have to do. You don't know where to start. There's no timeline. Just keep in mind there's no timeline. You can do it at your own pace, but just one thing at a time. And make sure you don't do it alone. Like reach
Mm.
out and not just friends and family, but there are other resources out there that can help walk you through it side by side. It's a lot more beneficial for you if you don't do it alone. Yeah.
Financial piece and the emotional piece
Yes.
of that. And I love that we have come together to do things together for that financial fog and the emotional fog that is experienced within divorce. I love that we have partnered on that to really support clients fully
Right.
with that. It's been really, really good, beneficial for them to have that awareness as
Mhm.
you did when we first started talking and doing the workshop together. It's like this is kind of normal, this financial or this fog of this emotional component that I have. The other thing that I want to share real quick that just came to mind, and so I'll share it, is just the piece of I feel like, and you can speak to this, the empowering piece that you have gained working with Dina and I, taking control and setting up more boundaries and awareness. You want to speak to that a little bit, how that has felt?
It definitely has felt empowering. Definitely empowering. Yes. So, I am a people pleaser by nature. I like to say yes to things, even when I know I don't really want to do it and it's not really going to be the best either time of use or time of, really anything. But learning to retrain my brain and given those tools of so even if I set those boundaries and make them clear boundaries, it doesn't mean that I'm being mean. I'm setting those boundaries to protect myself, my nervous system, my busy schedule that affects my nervous system, all of the things, my peace of mind, knowing that I'm just going to throw this in here. A lot of people have, because I am so independent and have been independent most of my life and, have done some things, a lot of people will come to me.
Sure.
So just setting those boundaries, for myself, because I keep pouring and not receiving, even just
Hmm.
receiving from myself. So that's a very important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do they say? It's hard to pour from an empty cup. So
Absolutely.
not always filling your own cup. And one of the things that I remember, I think, in one of our conversations is just the awareness of like, and I'm guilty of this too, for sure, because we're people pleasers. Is it, do they really need me or do I need to be needed? So I'll repeat that. Do they really need me or do I need to be needed? And so sometimes we just need to be needed. So we allow that because it makes us feel needed. Do you remember us talking about that?
Oh, yes. I had an awareness. I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
maybe that is it.
I think I might have even said, I feel a little called out.
I think we probably knew that happens a lot. And so it's not like you're alone in that. It's pretty common as pleasers, as people pleasers. Underneath that, we'd like to get down into the root of why we do what we do, how that programming is. And we
Mhm.
do know that a lot of that programming goes back to, our parents, our childhood, could be a teacher, could be whatever, but something from before programmed us to be pleasers, people
Mhm.
pleasers, and feel that we need that to feel good about ourselves. And so it's cool when that awareness comes and we can be empowered by just the understanding of that and still feel that confidence and everything that we don't need that need to be needed anymore.
Yeah,
It's in a different, I mean, we always want to feel needed, but it's in a different way, if that makes sense. Yeah. Any,
absolutely.
yeah. Anything else that you would like to share? And that when I asked you to come on the podcast, you're like, "Ah, I want to make sure that we talk about this," or anything that you can think of that I didn't
Um,
ask you a question about?
I don't know if there's anything that was like, "Oh, we need to talk about this."
Hmm.
When you asked me, I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna be an open book.
Yeah.
It's just gonna leave it at that." I really didn't think of. Yeah, I will just say that, grief is a very sticky thing that, it
Mhm.
comes around and it doesn't ever really go away. You sometimes have the tools to better handle them that I'm learning now,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. It never goes away. And there's different things, there's a lots of different avenues of grief. Yeah. But don't shove it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we definitely have all experienced grief in many, many different ways. I was just came from a talk, so I'll share this that I did, and I was sitting next to an older, I would say older than me woman, and she just lost her husband, and we started talking, and he had dementia or Alzheimer's. And so we just talked about that double loss. And then really, then I said that triple loss because there's a loss, there's some grief when the diagnosis is given. And
Mm.
this is true too with like illnesses, cancer, all of the things. So the diagnosis is given. So there's a grief there because now we're anticipating what is going to happen. And then as far as Alzheimer's, now the memory is gone. So now we've lost that as well. And then the physical loss. So there's so much loss in things that are layered. Like, for instance, and you can speak to this. I know I spoke the very first time. Like, there's the divorce, but then there's the financial piece. There's the trust. There's the security. There could be relationships that got
Mhm.
changed. How you're parenting, there's a total shift there. There's just layered all on top of each other. And I think that is what people really don't understand,
Right.
that it's a lot to work through by yourself.
It is, yes. And for a lot of people, I mean, including myself, like, after my divorce, that was the first time where I may have been like an independent person, but that was the very first time in my life at the age of 40 that I ever lived by myself, all by myself. So, I mean, I had my daughters, but the only adult, I guess I should say. That,
Sure.
you are the adult. You are the only adult that is now.
That's heavy. Yeah,
Yes,
it can be very heavy,
right.
very heavy. Well, I
Mhm.
really appreciate you coming on and sharing. So thank you so much for sharing your story, your wisdom with us today. One of the things I appreciate about our conversation like this is that the reminder that healing after loss happens on many levels. It's emotional, it's
Mhm.
personal, and sometimes it's also practical, like rebuilding our confidence around our finances and our future. And your story is such a powerful example of how the chapters that we never expected can eventually become the very place where we are able to guide and support others. So I want to thank the listeners too for joining us today for this conversation. If it's resonated with you, please remember to make sure that you follow, like, share, all of those things, especially with someone else that could benefit from it, that maybe is navigating a loss by themselves, whether financially or emotionally, that deep personal loss. There's always a path forward, I want to say, and often support can make that path feel a little lighter. So thanks again for spending time with us on Female Voices Life and Law. If, like I said, if this episode spoke to you, please share it.